I'm back, spending 100 days in Terraria Calamity mod, only this time on the hardest difficulty of Mastermode plus Death mode. I do not recommend you try this for yourself as this was super difficult. Anyways, sit back and enjoy this painful experience through 100 days of Terraria Calamity. As I started day 1 in Calamity once again, I this time chose Death mode, and Death mode is a tougher challenge for the more experienced, which I am not, as you will see in this video. I opened the bag I spawned with, which gave me some good weapons to get me started, and I was quickly reminded just how much this would suck. I killed some wolf-from robots, which gave me some scraps. I then went ahead and made this helmet and continued to destroy the trees. After getting killed once more, I headed down in the cave and found this chest which contained some very useful climbing claws. Since I had spent all day exploring, I had not yet started to build a base, which led to me getting absolutely spawn camped. Eventually I took a Minecraft classic and made myself a little hole. I put down an anvil and made myself an amethyst grappling hook. Since I had nothing better to do during the nighttime, I dug down and I found this cloud in a bottle. This item allowed me to double jump, which made things a lot easier. I found another golden chest, and I guess I'm blind because I did not see any of the traps that absolutely obliterated me. Not only did I die and lose all of my gold coins, but it was also raining when I respawned back on the surface. Anyways, I made myself a little base, as well as creating a full set of lead armor. I went ahead and crafted a wolf-from drill because I know people love that sound. I headed back down to the chest where I had previously died and I found a magic mirror. Deeper within the caves, I found this railroad which led me to this life crystal. Cruising further, I eventually stumbled upon this golden chest which had a band of regeneration. I then hit the jackpot and found around probably 10 life crystals within this mushroom biome. And this right here is peak performance. I then found a dead man's sweater, which is ironic because I never die. Since I needed more NPCs to move in, I created a second floor to the base. By combining some silver bars with some wood, I could craft this new axe. Day 4 came around and I started exploring the left side of the world. I didn't really find anything notable, however I did stumble upon the dungeon and the old man. Traveling back to the mines, I found a new golden chest. I also found the last life crystals I needed in order to get full HP. When I returned to the surface, I started to work on a new base. And shortly after, while working on the stairs, I got the message that an evil presence were watching me. This means that the Eye of Cthulhu would spawn the following night. I didn't really have any weapons I could use to deal with him, so I just got absolutely massacred. When it was finally daytime once again, I got the message that slime was falling from the sky. I just wanted to work on my base in peace, but I couldn't catch a break. Once nighttime arrived, I once again got the message that Eye of Cthulhu would spawn, and yeah. And once I had finally died, I could then continue to work on the base. So in the end, I think it ended up looking pretty good. I could then start moving some of the items from my first base over to this one. A new NPC moved in, and of course I had to buy a cat license. And on the night of day 8, I got this stupid message once again. I figured I should try a new weapon, so I crafted this spark spreader in hopes of actually doing something against Eye of Cthulhu. Since I desperately needed a new armor, I went ahead and upgraded to the platinum armor. On the morning of day 9, I went exploring to the right side of the world when I suddenly got this new summoning item. The adventure continued to the east and I stumbled upon this crimson biome. Deeper within the crimson, I found a crimson altar which I could use in order to craft 2 boss summoning items. I used a couple of bombs in order to explode my way down and destroy these heart things. With very little hope, I summoned Slime King, and of course it just absolutely did not go my way. I just can't explain how much I hate this boss. I then killed this huge monster in the desert biome, which dropped me a pretty good accessory. Since I hadn't been down the underground desert biome, I headed down and I found a golfer standing on a cactus. With some of the items I got from killing monsters in the underground desert biome, I could craft a desert medallion. When I returned home, I could also craft the Hermes boots, which is super important. And as daytime arrived, I started to work on a boss arena for the upcoming boss fight. And oh man, was this platform way too small. I mean, I had no chance of defeating this boss. And like some of you pointed out in my last video, I did not use pylons, and that's because I just haven't really thought about it. I guess I figured one more layer to the already way too small arena was enough, and it wasn't. During the nighttime there was a blood moon event and it was absolutely mayhem. I tried a couple more times on the Desert Scourge and I did better, but not enough. Thankfully I went ahead and expanded the arena a bit, and I also got the message that Eye of Cthulhu would arrive, and it went pretty much exactly how you'd think it would. Taking a break from dying over and over again, I went down to the caves, and this is where I got the message that the goblin army was approaching. I headed up to the surface to prepare myself, and it actually went pretty well. Defeating the goblin army means that the goblin tinkerer could now spawn somewhere down in the mines. While I didn't find him, I found this enchanted sword shrine. I also found this pineapple, which at first I thought was just a food, however it was actually a pet. And maybe now with this pineapple flying around me I could now beat the boss. Or maybe not. After dying some more, I headed down to the caves once again, and I actually managed to find the Goblin Tinkerer. From him I could buy the rocket boots as well as the Tinkerer's workshop. I continued exploring and found this chest which contained a new grappling hook. I also found this whoopee cushion. When I arrived back at the base, I could now combine some of my accessories at the workshop. I did get better at the boss fight itself, however I still didn't quite manage to kill him. And King Slime was just an absolute menace. And at this point I felt like nothing was working. At least I went ahead and crafted 2 NPC houses in the desert in order to get the desert pylon. This was super useful because I was dying so much in the desert and now I wouldn't have to run. While I was down in the caves in the underground desert biome, I killed this storm lion which dropped a new summoning item. I also came across this shrine where I found a pretty decent accessory. And after many deaths, it was now my time to shine. Yes sir, there you have it. The first boss of many was officially killed. I could now go ahead and open the well-deserved treasure bag that I got, which gave me a good weapon. With some of the items he dropped, I could craft some sea remains, which was a crafting material. And just like that, I could place down my very first trophy. And with this newfound confidence, I went ahead and summoned King Slime once again, however he still absolutely destroyed me. Even though I tried my best, I stood absolutely no chance against him, for now at least. I went ahead and crafted a full set of Victide armor with the sea remains I crafted earlier. And yeah, the armor didn't really help. I then tried to kill the Desert Scourge once again, and I couldn't even do that. I needed to take a break from dying so much, so I went ahead and popped a gravitation potion and went flying. Eventually I found this little floating island which had a chest on it and gave me a new minecart. I continued to explore some of the floating islands and I found a couple of nice items such as the Star Fury and a lucky horseshoe. At last I also found a shiny red balloon which I could use in order to combine with the cloud in a bottle. With the cloud and the balloon I could combine it with the horseshoe to make a blue horseshoe balloon. I then tried once again to summon King Slime, so let's just cue the death montage. I headed over to Reddit and thankfully I could find some like-minded people. Thankfully, at least I managed to kill the Desert Scourge and he dropped a couple of new items such as the bow. I killed him a couple more times just to see if he had any other items. And after killing him a couple of times, it absolutely became easier. Since I had no chance of killing King Slime, it was now time to try and beat Eye of Cthulhu. As it became daytime, I got a visit from the traveling merchant and I bought myself a mysterious cape. Once again I killed the Desert Scourge, only this time he dropped me a new weapon. This weapon was called the Brittle Star Staff, which was a new summoning item. While I was waiting for nighttime, I just kept on trying to beat King Slime. And once nighttime did finally arrive, I got absolutely destroyed. Either way, I went ahead and crafted 2 NPC houses all the way on the right side of the world in the beach biome. I then killed a sting in the Crimson biome which spawned a perforator hive. Surprisingly, I actually managed to get him fairly low on the first try, however he eventually killed me. Now that some of the NPCs had spawned in the beach houses, I could buy a ocean pylon. This now meant that I could easily travel between my base and the beach, which was really close to the Crimson biome. During the nighttime, I somehow managed to reach the 3rd phase of the Eye of Cthulhu boss fight, however I just can't fathom how difficult it was. At this stage I really didn't know what to do as I couldn't seem to kill any of the bosses. And this of course naturally led to me rage quitting. However, after some well needed rest, something happened. And after 28 whole days, I was finally ready to face the Eye of Cthulhu. And after the fight, it was safe to say I was pretty happy. I opened the treasure bag and got the Shield of Cthulhu, which is huge. I returned to the base and placed down the second trophy. I received some Crimtane bars from the fight and crafted a Magiluminescence, which increased my movement speed. With this new item, I was now ready to fight the Perforators. After beating the Perforators, I finally felt like this was actually possible. Opening the treasure bag, I received some more useful materials. With these new items, I headed over to a Crimson Altar where I made myself a new sword. Continuing on day 30, I found this giant clam in this underwater biome. This boss fight was super easy and I managed to kill it on the first try. And for whatever reason, I thought this boss was the Crabulon boss. And yeah, I didn't get any loot bags, so I was confused. Oh, and also after killing the giant clam, there spawned a new NPC. So, placing down my 4th trophy, my confidence levels was at its highest, and I was ready to summon the King Slime. And then finally, after 37 tries, I managed to kill the King Slime. I was excited to open the bag and I opened it and I got a slime saddle, which is a new mount. The very same night I summoned the Eye of Cthulhu once again and I killed him, and this time he dropped a new summoning item. This item was called the Death Stare Rod and it summoned a small demon eye that shot lasers. It was then about time that I actually killed the real Crabulon boss, so I went to the Crimson biome to craft a boss summoning item. The boss itself could only be summoned in the underground mushroom biome, so I headed over there. And of course, it wouldn't be a real boss fight if I didn't die a couple of times. However, it didn't take too long before I got it. And as simple as that, I beat Crabulon for my very first time. He dropped this very useful item called the Plasma Root, which increased my rage time. And at this point, things were looking pretty good, however that was only until I had to beat the Brain of Cthulhu. Needing to calm down a bit, I started to renovate my old house. I wasn't a fan of the wood, so I replaced it all with grey bricks, and I also added some additional NPC houses. So now that base was looking a bit better, I could continue to get my cheeks slapped by the Brain of Cthulhu. Then, being absolutely tilted by dying over and over, I looked up some tips on how to kill the Brain of Cthulhu, and then you have this guy who just made everything worse. I then found out that there is an item called Aerolite Ore. I couldn't mine the ore itself without beating the Brain of Cthulhu, however it did drop by arrow slimes. And after farming a couple of slimes, I could now make some bars. These bars made me able to craft a new pickaxe that was able to mine hellstone, which was huge. I headed down to hell, drank an obsidian skin potion which allowed me to swim in lava, and started mining all the hellstone. And after returning to the surface, I had ended up farming way too much ore than I really needed. And with these bars, of course, I upgraded my armor set to the molten armor. And I went ahead and crafted the volcano or the fiery greatsword for all the OGs out there. And of course I also crafted the molten ham axe, which replaced my hammer and my axe. I went ahead and opened the boss checklist, and I saw that there was a boss called the Torch God, which I had not yet killed. And in order to spawn the boss, I had to place down 101 torches for whatever reason. So I went ahead and placed down all the torches, and of course I did it in the smallest room possible. And in the end I understood that the boss fight itself was just about trying to survive. So in the end it was actually pretty simple, and I managed to kill the Torch God. Afterwards I headed to the jungle in order to craft 2 NPC houses in order to have a jungle pylon so I could teleport to the jungle biome. Within the jungle I crafted myself a abomination, which is the summoning item for the queen bee. And after the NPCs had moved into the houses, I could now purchase the jungle pylon. I used some dynamite in order to clear out the area for a little arena for the queen bee boss fight. The arena itself was way too small, however I just wanted to try at least. And yeah, I had no chance with this small ass arena. And in the early mornings of day 41 I got the message that acid rain had started in the west. Not really knowing what it meant, I headed over to investigate. It seemed that during the event there spawned some new monsters that I had to kill. So yeah, the event itself was actually pretty easy and not that eventful. Afterwards, I figured it was time to explore the Brimstone Crag, which is a biome that spawns on either sides in hell. My reason for exploring this biome was to possibly find a chest which could contain a sword that was pretty useful. And after a bit of searching, I actually found a chest which contained the blade crest sword that I was searching for. And as you can see, this sword shoots out these demonic blades, which is very powerful. At this point I had a new molten armor as well as a new sword, and I figured maybe I was able to kill the Queen Bee or Brain of Cthulhu, however I still wasn't. And just real talk for a second, the Brain of Cthulhu fight is absolutely horrible. I needed some more Aerolite bars, so I headed up in the skies to kill some more of the cloud slimes. With these bars I could now craft my very first set of wings, which were the Skyline wings, and having these wings made my mobility way better. However, still not good enough for the Queen Bee fight. However, through sheer determination, Of course, I managed to pull through. And that is exactly how you do it. All it took was 26 tries. I opened the treasure bag and all I got was some trash. However, I went ahead and crafted this new summoning item called the Hornet Staff. And after many tries, I returned to the Crimson biome in order to summon the Brain of Cthulhu, and for whatever reason his HP was completely broken. And just before dying, he somehow died. I guess his HP was just completely bugged, but I don't care. Returning back to the base, I proudly put down the trophy. Opening the treasure bag gave me a ton of materials in order to craft some Crimtane bars. It also dropped the Brain of Confusion, which was a really good accessory. I headed over to the Witch Doctor, where I bought an imbuing station. At this point, my base started to feel kinda crowded, so I went ahead and expanded by making this basement. Oh, and I also got the message that a meteorite had landed somewhere in the world. I was also running out of space in my chests, so I had to expand the whole chest area. I also went ahead and replaced some of the grass outside of my base with these stone slabs. And sometime during the nighttime I stumbled upon this unconscious man, which was the Tavern Keep NPC. When I returned back home, I started to replace the grass on the right side of the base as well with stone slabs, and I figured this place was the perfect spot to summon the Old One's army. Now, I wasn't entirely sure on how this worked, but I figured it out. So in essence, you just have to protect the crystal in the middle from getting attacked by all of the goblins spawning in the portals. So in essence, you just have to protect the crystal in the middle from getting attacked by all of the goblins spawning in the portals. And during wave 5, a mini-boss called the Dark Mage spawned in one of the portals. And without too much of a hassle, I managed to kill the Dark Mage as well as beat the Old One's army. Afterwards, I headed to the Crimson biome in order to craft a Overloaded Sludge, which is a new boss summoning item. So with this item, I headed back to the base and I could summon the Slime God. And I didn't really get too far before eventually dying. On the early mornings of day 49, it was now time to start thinking about killing Skeletron Prime, so I made myself 2 bases in the snow biome in order to craft a pylon. I then began to build the arena itself right by the dungeon, and I knew the boss fight would take a lot of space, so I spent the rest of day 49 by just expanding and making this arena. And as nighttime arrived, I went ahead and spoke to the cursed old man. And the boss fight went fine until the second or third phase, where it just turned absolutely impossible. On day 50, I returned to the base and continued to fight the Old One's army a couple of times in order to see if there was any more items that I could get. I was also waiting for nighttime so I could summon Skeletron once again. And one of the times that I beat it, I got a new flying mount. Nighttime arrived once again, which gave me another shot at beating Skeletron, but of course it didn't really work. So since I was waiting for nighttime once again, I headed to the jungle during the daytime, where I found myself a new anklet. With this anklet I could combine it with an aglet and my boots to upgrade to the lightning boots. I saw that I only needed ice skates in order to upgrade them further, so I went ahead and crafted a pair of ice skates. Now with these 2 items I could combine them and make the frost spark boots, which gave me more mobility. And it was really hard beating Skeletron because I only had 1 shot and I couldn't miss my chance to blow. This opportunity only came once per nighttime. So during the daytime I headed down to the caves, where I found Victor, and he sold me this piece of bread, which increased my crafting station range. Once again I returned to the Crimson biome in order to craft a new boss summoning item, only this time it was the Deerclops boss. So it was the 3rd or maybe 4th time I tried to beat Skeletron, and of course once again it ended badly. And during the daytime I headed over to the snow biome in order to summon Deerclops. He did get me once, however I could feel that he wouldn't really be too much of a problem. So I returned to face him once again. So yeah, he really wasn't too much of a problem. I opened the treasure bag he gave me, and he gave me this pet item, which was pretty much just a walking chest. I figured this was really good, however it was super hard to actually open it. So this is pretty much how these days went. During the nighttime I was dying, and during the daytime I was trying to fight the slime gods. I made myself a new summoning staff, which was called the Cinder Blossom, which was basically a fire thingy that shot fire. So having this item, I figured now was the time to actually beat Skeletron. Or maybe not. At this point I downloaded a mod which allowed me to summon the boss multiple times during the night, and I believe this was 100% necessary, or else I would be spending all of the rest of the days trying to fight this boss. I needed a break from dying over and over again, so I went ahead and crafted this trophy room. And trust me when I say, Skeletron was almost the breaking point for this playthrough. It was just impossible. Like, I was googling to see if anyone else had the same problem. It was insane. So, since I couldn't fight Skeletron during the daytime, I instead spent my time farming aerolite bars in order to craft a new sword. So finally I had gotten enough ores to craft enough bars, so I headed over to the sky mill. And with these bars I went ahead and crafted a wind blade. I went ahead and tested the sword and it seemed pretty powerful. It also gave me just a slight tiny hope that I could actually beat Skeletron, however... and he just absolutely made me rage quit. However, I returned the next day well rested and I almost managed to kill him, but I didn't, and it just made me more annoyed. However, I am no quitter, and I was going to get in that dungeon. And after a lot of dying, I finally managed to kill him, and it's safe to say I was pretty happy. I finally went ahead and opened the trash bag and he gave me some really bad items. However, the main point was that I could finally enter the dungeon. Not long after heading down, I found a new NPC called the Mechanic. And sometime after that, I got the message that the new NPC had moved in, Nigel. I could open the first golden chest using a key I received from killing one of the monsters. However, the chest didn't really contain anything useful. However, one of the other chests I opened gave me a shadow key, which meant that I could now open the shadow chests in hell. I was also pretty lucky with one of the chests where I received a Muramasa. I then arrived at this huge room, which I'm guessing is some sort of boss fight further down the road. I also opened another chest which gave me exactly the item I wanted, which was the Cobalt Shield, after which I returned back to base. Once I arrived, I went ahead and upgraded my potion area with this new alchemy table, which allowed me to make more potions. I went ahead and upgraded the Cobalt Shield with a obsidian skull. I then journeyed my way down to hell in order to open some of the shadow chests, which I could now open with the shadow key. However, as per usual, you really don't get anything useful from these chests, so yeah. On day 69, nice, I opened the boss checklist and I saw that the Slime God was the next boss on the list. Luckily for me, this boss fight was nowhere near as terrible as the Skeletron one. So yeah, the boss fight itself really didn't give me too much of a struggle, but either way, it was another boss to check off the list. Once I placed down the trophy, I could now see that there was only one boss remaining, the Wall of Flesh. I went ahead and opened the treasure bag, and I got a new summoning item, as well as a electrolyte gel pack, which basically increased my adrenaline. I could also go ahead and upgrade the solidifier that I had in my basement to a static refiner. And with this new crafting station, I could now craft new weapons and armor with gel. So that's exactly what I did. I made myself a whole new set of armor. I headed over to the dye crafting station and made myself a couple of new dyes that I put on my wings. And since the upcoming boss was the Wall of Flesh, I now had to make a big arena in order to fight him. It was also about time that I upgraded some of my accessories, so I went ahead and crafted an obsidian skull rose as well as a lava charm. With these two items I could now combine them to craft the molten skull rose, which I could then use in order to craft the lava waders. And finally, by combining the lava waders with my frostspark boots, I could go ahead and craft the terraspark boots. From the slime god fight I also got the final material that I needed in order to craft the knight's edge. However, at this point in the game, the knight's edge really wasn't that useful. I headed down to hell just to see how terrible the Wall of Flesh fight would be, and I could just tell it was gonna be a horrible experience. I figured I might need a new sword, so I went ahead and crafted the fractured arc. However, it really wasn't that useful in this fight. But on the other hand, it does look pretty awesome. Since that didn't work, I went ahead and crafted the Biome Blade to see if that was maybe a better option. With this sword I could kind of absorb the powers of each biome and gain different abilities. And with the desert ability on the blade, I can now just bounce around everywhere. However, even though it was fun to use, it was absolutely horrible against the Wall of Flesh. But all the fun aside, I went over and bought myself a digging mole cart because I needed a better arena to fight the Wall of Flesh. Also went ahead and made some preparations for hard mode, so by splitting the biomes I didn't get corruption spreading to my base. Since I got pretty sick from running all the way to the end of the platform in order to summon the Wall of Flesh, I instead headed over to the mechanic to buy 2 teleporters. Since I had never used teleporters in my entire Terraria lifetime, I had to make a quick prototype in order to see how it worked. And after some trial and error, I kinda figured out how it worked, even though it wasn't too pretty. So now with this prototype up and running, I headed down to hell to set up the real thing. And I needed a lot of wires in order to do this. And before fighting the Wall of Flesh once again, I killed the slime gods in order to get some more materials. And with these materials I headed over to the new crafting station and made this galactic blade. I had to give it a test run before fighting the Wall of Flesh, and it did seem pretty good. So with my new galactic blade I went ahead and tried to beat the Wall of Flesh, and you can see for yourself how it went. So at this point I realized that my arena was way too small, so I just spent a lot of time expanding it. I also crafted this new staff that was called the Slime Puppet Staff. So I heard some rumors that there was supposed to be a better summoning staff within the Sulfuric Sea. So of course I had to venture way down in order to try and find it. In one of the chests I found a strange orb, which was a new light pet. And after searching many chests I finally found the staff I was looking for. However, I barely got it because I almost died. So with this new fish summoning staff I was ready to take on the Wall of Flesh. Or maybe not. However, after way too many deaths, finally something happened. And just like that, after 39 whole tries, we had finally entered hard mode. This meant that the upcoming bosses was gonna be a lot more difficult. And as I was collecting my well-deserved items, I all of a sudden heard this loud noise and got the message that a star had landed somewhere in the world. And I can also go and gather 2 of the new ores that spawned, which was cobalt and palladium. Returning back to the base felt really good, as I could now place down the final trophy from pre-hard mode. So I went ahead and opened the treasure bag I received, which gave me some useful items, and I got the weird one called the Meow Thrower. However, it was kinda good. I also got this kinda kinky whip, which I was probably just gonna put in a chest somewhere. However, the best item I got was definitely the Demon Heart, which gave me another accessory slot, which is just a super upgrade. I went ahead and talked to the dye trader, which sold me this new dye, and I thought it looked pretty cool, so I went ahead and replaced it with the dye I had on my wings. I went out looking for the new Hallowed biome, and I could see that it had spawned right beside my base. Since I didn't have a hole separating the Hallowed biome from spreading all the way to my base, I went ahead and did exactly that. And hopefully this would stop the spread of the Hallowed biome within the world. And since my original base was getting too crowded already, I figured maybe it was time to make something much bigger. And one of the reasons I did this was because I was now in hard mode and I knew that there would be a lot more new items, so I needed all the space I could get. I didn't really have anything planned design wise, so I just went ahead and made this huge cube and pretty much just took it from there. This also meant that I had to move my trophy room, and of course it just had to go terribly wrong. And as I was working on the base, I all of a sudden got the message that the air was getting colder around me, which meant that one of the mechanical bosses was gonna spawn. And for those of you who play this game knows that this is not the message you wanna get one of the first nights in hard mode. However, I did manage to finish the layout of the base before the night was over. On the very next day I managed to set up the new trophy room, which looked exactly the same, only moved a bit to the east. I then tried to be a bit fancy with it by making the background a bit more detailed, and I really don't know how people usually go about this, but I just went around spamming. I also made these massive windows, and I think it ended up looking pretty okay. And I figured, since I had only killed the Wall of Flesh once, there was probably a few more items that I could get from him, so I headed down and summoned him once again. This was also a perfect moment for me to try the new Meow Thrower weapon, and surprisingly enough, it worked pretty well. The only useful item I got was the corruption key, however it really wasn't that useful because I couldn't use it, so... The second time I killed him, he also gave me a crimson key, which also was nice, but I couldn't use it at the moment. From the treasure bag, on the other hand, I received a Black Hawk remote. And finally, the third or fourth time that I killed him, he dropped a goat skull, which was a new mount that looked pretty cool. This was also a perfect moment for me to try the new Meow Thrower weapon, and surprisingly enough, it worked pretty well. Anyways, I went ahead and opened the treasure bag and it gave me all of the emblems, and I got the warrior emblem, which was the one I wanted. Afterwards, I headed over to the Crimson biome to destroy some Crimson altars, however they didn't spawn in new ores like they usually do, instead they just gave me some souls. Anyways, that is it for part 1. If you want to see part 2, make sure to let me know and remember to subscribe. Thanks for watching.